Okay, when you think about global power, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's a world map, right? You see countries with these nice, clean borders. You think about China versus the USA. But what if that map, the one we've all been using for centuries, is dangerously out of date? What if it's actually hiding the real power structures that are shaping our world right now?
So let's just dive right in. On the left, you've got that traditional view we all know, the flat map of competing nations. But on the right, that's a whole new way of looking at things, a vertical stack. This is the big idea we're going to unpack, and trust me, understanding this is going to completely change how you see where power really lies.
You know, for generations, this flat map was our guide. It made sense. Power was horizontal. It was one country's army versus another's army, one nation's economy against another's. It was all pretty straightforward. Control your piece of land, draw lines on a map, and defend them.
And that leads to a really important question. I mean, in an age of digital platforms, global supply chains, and data that flows across borders in a split second, does a simple map of countries really explain who has the power to influence your life? The answer, more and more, is a hard no.
So if the old map is broken, what do we replace it with? Well, this is where a really powerful theory from Bert comes into play. It's called the sovereign stack, and it gives us a brand new lens to see and understand power in the 21st century. All right, so let's nail down the definition here. The sovereign stack thesis basically says, stop looking at the world horizontally, from side to side. Start looking at it vertically, from top to bottom. It argues that power today is organized in 4 distinct but totally interconnected layers, all stacked one on top of the other. Okay, so what exactly are these 4 layers? Let's break down this new model of power and see how it's all put together, one layer at a time. So let's build this stack from the ground up. Literally, at the very bottom, you've got the earth layer. This is all the physical stuff, the land, the minerals, the energy resources. Simple enough. Right on top of that is the cloud layer. Think of the massive server networks from companies like Amazon and Google, the digital infrastructure that runs our lives. Then we have this city layer. This is where people actually live, physical populations, local laws, roads, buildings. And finally, right at the very top is the user layer. That's you, that's me. It's our digital identities, our online profiles, and all of our data. Now here's where it gets really interesting. This new model doesn't just give us a new map, it completely flips the script on how we think about conflict. Because if power is a vertical stack, then the most important fights aren't just happening horizontally between countries anymore. Nope, they're vertical. They're fought between the layers themselves. And this brings us to the absolute core idea of this whole theory. Get this. Conflict no longer happens purely between China versus USA, horizontal. It happens between layers. That's it. That is the revolutionary concept at the heart of the stack. So what does this vertical conflict actually look like in the real world? Well, here's a perfect and very real example. Imagine a giant tech company operating up in the cloud layer deciding to deplatform a world leader or even an entire government which operates down on the earth and city layers. In that exact moment, the cloud is using direct power over the earth. That's the new battleground. Or just think about how a social media algorithm, that's a cloud function, can amplify information that directly causes protests or sways elections happening in a physical city. And all of this leads us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? The one this whole model forces us to ask. In this new, stacked world, who is truly sovereign? Who really has the final say? Because what this all means is that sovereignty isn't just about having an army and a border anymore. Real, lasting power in the 21st century, it comes from controlling or at least influencing all 4 of those layers of the stack, from the minerals deep in the ground all the way up to the data of every single user. It's all about winning that vertical war. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Just think about your own life for a second, your physical address and your digital existence. In this new world we find ourselves in, who really holds more power over you? The state you live in or the cloud you live on?